Hi, everyone. This is the Myers fan. I'm back with another guest. He is the writer of Halloween H2O. Please welcome Mr. Robert Zappia. Did I say that correctly?
You
Did I?
said it perfectly.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you so much for joining us. Uh,
Happy to be here.
so, I guess the first question I would ask you, as a seasoned writer, you have an impressive list of writing credits across various platforms. Your portfolio includes notable films like Pray for the Devil and Jackass 3D. Wow. Okay.
Hmm.
Um wow. You've been involved with Home Improvement from 1991 to 1993. Which is impressive, but to many horror fans, your most significant achievement remains your role as the writer of Halloween H2O. Now, this film not only marked a pivotal moment in the Halloween franchise, but it offered a fresh perspective on the iconic character of Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. So I guess I would ask, I want you to share how you got into writing. Share your journey with us.
Oh, okay. Great question, Darnell. My journey into writing, it was really more out of necessity than desire. So when I got into film school at USC, and I always wanted, I thought at the time to direct. Really didn't think about writing as a career, but in film school, obviously you had to write something to be able to direct it. So I would write my short films. I started writing that way. And then when I got out of film school and I graduated from USC, I was like, here I am, studios, hire me to direct your next film. And the phone did not ring. Nobody called. So I got a job, luckily, as a production assistant on a television series on NBC. It was called Carol and Company. It was a Carol Burnett kind of reboot in the late 80s. It was like 1989. And it was created by the same creator, Matt Williams, who had created Roseanne. So I was a production assistant on that. And as being a PA, you're serving lunches to the writers, you're bringing them coffee. Actually, I was making them coffee. This is pre-Starbucks. So I learned how to
Mhm.
make a mean espresso. And I realized, oh, this writing thing is not bad, right? They make pretty good money, and they get food brought to them, and it's a pretty fun gig. So I started writing what are called spec. That just means you're not getting paid to do it. Spec half hour uh, of Carol and Company, the show I was working on as a PA, and Matt Williams was kind enough to read them and give me great advice and notes. I look back, they were terrible. They were terrible. But he was able to kind of sit me down, as busy of a man as he was, and give me advice on how to improve my writing. So I continued to do that. He eventually said, you should be a writer's assistant, who's somebody who's in the room with the writers. And the show I was a writer's assistant on was Home Improvement. Um, so I did that for a year, continued to write on my own and give him scripts. And after that first season, he said, okay, I think you're ready to actually be paid to do this. And so I was put on staff eventually at Windancer on a number of their television shows. So that's how I got started. And from there, I just kind of, I don't want to say fell in love with writing because it's a love-hate relationship for me. It's a lot of work. I like having written. It's very satisfying to have written something and particularly to see it when it's made and if it's made well. But that's where I kind of found that that was my calling more than directing.
So, how did you get involved with a film like Halloween H2O? How did that happen?
Uh, Darnell, that was basically complete blind luck, basically. I guess, well, they say luck is what, like preparedness when you meet opportunity. So I had
Hmm.
written, when I wasn't writing sitcoms, which is how I started, Home Improvement, Thunder
Yeah.
Alley, Buddies. During our hiatus, we would get about 3 months a year where the show went down and you'd have the summers basically off. I would write either 1 hour drama specs or feature specs. And the genre of choice, I like comedy, but the genre of choice for me was always thrillers and horror. So I had written a spec X-Files because I wanted to get into 1 hour drama. So I wrote this 1 hour X-Files on spec. So it wasn't produced. It was just something I wrote to try and get attention from people who are hiring. And it got the attention of Richard Potter at Dimension Films. And he wanted to have what's called a general meeting. So they don't have something specifically for you to work on, but they like your writing. They want to meet with you. So I went, my agent set up this meeting with Richard Potter. I believe the meeting, let's say, was at 12:30. I get there early. It's in on Melrose in Beverly Hills. Takes me forever to find parking. I'm sweating like crazy trying to get in there by 12:30. I make it right under the gun. Say I'm here to see Richard Potter. Sit down. 12:30, 12:35, 12:40, 12:45, 12:50. TikTok. I'm sitting there. 12:50, 12:55. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
So no wonder you have patience like that, because you had to sit there and wait for him.
Ridiculous. I'm like, I'm
Wow.
getting up. This is it.
Yeah.
Who do they think they are? Well, they were somebody, of course, and I was nobody. But at a certain point, I just thought, well, this is a waste of time. And it was maybe 35 minutes or so. I was sitting there. I thought I was just about to get up. Now, the lesson here, Darnell, is don't ever get up. Just hang in there.
Okay.
Because I was just about to get up. Because I thought it's just a waste of time. And they're like, "Oh, Richard, we'll see you." And I'm sure he was, said, of course, he's a busy guy. I'm sure
Yeah.
something ran over, and it was a fantastic meeting. Um, he was such a great, down to earth guy. It doesn't hurt that he liked my writing. You always love to hear that. Because
Hmm.
when you're writing, you put it out there and you don't know. I mean, you'll hear through your agent they liked it, or and certainly if you get hired, that's an indicator. But to have someone sit across from you, of some prominence and at a big company that's making movies say, "Hey, we like what you do," was great. So he said, "We'd love to work with you on something, but really the only thing we have right now is direct to video project Halloween 7." And I thought, oh my gosh, Halloween, because the original was one of my staples. Like as I grew up, loved it. It was the first thing I learned to play on the piano, was that Halloween theme.
Same here.
Right? Because it's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple enough, and you can be an expert. Like once you get it, you can just play those keys. Da, na, 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 na,
Yeah.
na, na. You can do it forever. So I was like, I don't direct a video. I don't care if it's direct to the bathroom.
Yeah.
If you'll hire me to write it. So It's called a bake off, basically. Like they have 3 or 4 or 5 writers that they have come in and pitch their take on Halloween 7. This is
Do
of
you
course
remember what year this was?
this was 96.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So a couple years
Yeah.
before it came out, it all happened very quickly, mind you, which I
Yeah.
learned. And Richard told me, do not get spoiled by this. This is not how it typically works. And he was absolutely right. Yeah, just like 96. So I came out with
Okay.
my take on it, which was, again, pre Jamie Lee, but it took place in an all girls high school. We kind of took that same idea once Jamie Lee came aboard
Yeah.
for the academy, but this was without her. There was a headmistress there. It kind of had a lot of the same elements. And I went in and pitched to Mustafa Akkad, who and his son Malik was there, and Paul Freeman, the producer. And they
Hmm.
ultimately are the ones who had the say in hiring. So Dimension kind of took, I think, who they recommended. I kind of weeded out and said, "Hey, here's 3 or 4 writers you might want to hear out what their take is." And I believe Daniel Farrens from Halloween 6, excuse me, came in and pitched, and they listened to the takes, and they picked mine, which was incredible to hear. So that's how I got the job,
So
basically.
ultimately, what was your story?
Yeah, you know what, Darnell? It was, we're talking many years ago, nearly 30 years now, but it
Hmm.
was because the very first draft I wrote called Two Faces of Evil.
I like that.
That was fun, right?
Yeah.
It was basically that script minus the copycat killer. Because Paul Freeman was the one who suggested that after they hired me to write it. So my take was the all girls academy. Michael escapes. He's not dead. He escapes, and he ends up going to this all girls academy. The logic as to why I can't remember. I'm sure there was some reason, some tie into family or something. Um, but that was kind of the bottom line of it.
Did you have any intention of including the other films? Because that is a very controversial thing where some fans appreciate that it was sort of erased and then some fans don't. Did you intend on connecting the other films or no?
I did, and we had versions where we did include it.
Okay.
Uh, um, but I don't know if it was Dimension or Mustafa who felt it was better to treat H2O as a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So Halloween 1, Halloween 2,
And
H2O.
then
Like
H.
this.
Okay. Well, see,
I
I don't do that when I watch it. To me, it's still part seven. So
okay.
I don't do that.
And personally, Darnell, if I were ruling the cinematic universe, I don't like stuff like that. Like I'm not an alternate timeline guy.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. So even what they're doing with the new Halloweens drives me nuts. Like what
Yeah.
when you start creating multiverses and you're
Yeah.
splitting off, it drives
Yeah.
me crazy. So, and this was before that went that extreme.
Yeah.
So I wanted to answer the question, right? So in my original draft, it was the reason why she became an alcoholic and driven to the bottle
Mm.
wasn't just because of her past trauma, but because she gave up Jamie for adoption, figuring she would be
Mhm.
saved and
Yeah.
safe. And when she finds out that complete opposite, he still found her and killed her, it
Yeah.
ruins her.
Yeah.
To me, that's more impactful as a character rather than I had this trauma in my past. I became an alcoholic. I'm still in
Yeah.
hiding. I like tying it in. I think I was successful in that. I think they wanted to leave the thorn stuff. I don't think I ever tied that in. They just felt like it was became too muddied. But I hate
See,
loose. I hate as a writer. I hate loose ends. And to me,
but
you're just like,
I don't look at it like that because to me, you could easily say, well, he killed the cult members. That's why you don't see them in H2O because they're dead.
good point.
So, I
Good point.
mean, to
Yeah,
me, it's just I didn't like the removal of it. I thought it was very disrespectful to people
I
that have
agree.
worked their butts off. Like you have Ellie Cornell who played Rachel
Yeah.
in 4 and 5. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Oh yeah. 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 Of course.
You have Danielle Harris, as we mentioned earlier.
Amazing. Amazing.
So I mean,
Darnell,
where does it leave them?
right? I agree. Did you ever read? And I'm sure it must be out there. But did you ever read a draft of H2O where there's the classroom scene and one of the students is giving a oral report on Michael Myers as a serial killer, and Jamie Lee is the teacher, right?
Hmm.
Is listening, and she's talking about, and that's where we got the backstory, like what happened to Jamie, the character, her daughter, and
Yeah.
how that's we tied it all in that way.
Well,
That
I
scene made it.
heard of it. I didn't get to read it. I've heard of it.
Yeah, that scene made it pretty far. It was pretty far in the process. I think it might have been when Steve Miner came aboard that it ended up getting cut.
Okay.
And Kevin, they just felt like it muddied it in some way. Um, but like you said, it's kind of created these two camps of yes, it did. I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah.
And the other camp was like, well, wait a minute.
But why
Like
can't
you're
you
saying,
just say why can't you just say that the cult members are dead? I don't understand. They're dead. What's the big deal? It's not that, you know what I mean? They're making it harder than it needs to be, you
we're
know?
not calling the shots, Darnell. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my goodness. That, these people are crazy. But what were some of the key influences? What influenced you to write this film? Was there something specific or what?
Well, one, a love for the franchise. I mean, like I mentioned, it was just one of
Yeah.
the very first horror films. I did not see it in the theater. I was a little young to see it in the theater, but it was one of the first horror films I saw on, the good old VHS tape,
Mhm.
and it scared the heck out of me. We used to, when I was in high school, my buddies and I would just drive around town with that soundtrack on at midnight, just
Wow.
scare the heck out of ourselves. We'd like drive up into the hills and imagine that we could see Michael Myers, behind every where is he? Behind every bush, like he
Yeah.
is back there. So I always I was a big scaredy cat as a kid.
Hmm.
Like as a young kid, like I saw well, as a teenager, I saw The Exorcist. I think I was 16. I saw it on tape or on TV or something, and I slept with the lights on for days. So horror has always intrigued me in that sense. Um, so to be a part of a franchise that I loved and admired, having seen Halloween, Halloween 2, and then The Return and Michael Myers Returns in 4 and 5, just to
Yeah,
be a part of that was, I didn't care where it went, like I was said before. And it was going to be a direct to home video. I didn't care. I mean, now
yeah,
it's so different right now because it's like there's no such thing as direct to home video. It's streaming and it's just as prestigious. But then it wasn't. Like if you went direct to video, it's kind of like a knock.
yeah.
But of
Now,
course, Jamie Lee got involved, and then the rest was history.
now, one might assume that a writer, when they're writing a screenplay, that they often picture specific actors that would bring their characters to life in a compelling way. So, when you were writing these characters, who did you picture embodying them? Who did you say, well, this person's gonna play John and this person's gonna play Molly, and who did you have in mind?
It's such a great question, and I'm going to give you a not great answer.
Okay.
Because you're absolutely right. And that many writers, friends that I have, do exactly what you're saying. And they
Mm-hmm.
picture a specific actress or actor in their mind when they're writing. I don't. I never have. To me, I create a person who doesn't exist. Like I can
Yeah,
see them in my head,
yeah,
but they're not an actor or actress that is out there, which in some ways is great because then when they are talking about casting, I can then plug them in and go, oh, all right. And then, of course, once you cast, you can go back in and rewrite kind of to their specific nuances of the actor or actress. But while
but
I'm
do they?
writing,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, do they have facial features? Like, do you see them?
I do, I
Are
do.
are
I don't know
they
where they come
are they
from.
black? Are they white? Are they
It
Asian?
depends. It
Okay.
completely depends. And I never describe them. I never
Huh.
describe them in a script because to me the reader's doing the same thing. So I
Yeah.
feel like if I say Josh Hartnett in my script in parens,
Right.
now you as the reader have locked that in, and he may not like him, or he may not be who you thought. You were thinking
Yeah.
someone else. So I leave it very wide open, and then if you as a reader are picturing a specific actor, actress, great. Um, but yeah, and I don't do it intentionally for that reason. It's just not how I've ever worked to me when I'm creating a screenplay story. It's all creation. I don't know how to explain it.
I mean, when I wrote what I thought would be a good Halloween, I did picture some people,
Yeah,
and I had there were some whites and some blacks, and and I knew who I wanted to play who, and so I just figured I would ask you that question.
it's a great question, and I think it's more typical to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually talked to another writer, at least in my circle, that does not do that. It's just, and I don't do it. Like I said, it's not intentional. It almost throws me. I don't know. I just have never done it. Now, of course, once someone's brought, like once they're like Jamie Lee's coming back, well,
Hmm.
but then you lock it in, right? Then like, wow, okay, I know who that is. I've seen her. I know that character. She's played it before, and you have a whole, different perspective.
Originally, did they have Jamie Lee in mind or no?
No, not in my first draft. She wasn't in it at all. I had
Okay.
a meeting with Bob Weinstein uh,
Hmm.
of Dimension Films
Yeah.
after I turned in the first draft. It's the only time I met him in person in his office, and he said, "I have good news and I have bad news." Okay, it's like the good news is absolutely loved your script. Like, oh, okay. What could the bad news be? Because the bad news is we're not making it.
Wow.
I was like, what? Why? Like, in my head, I don't say it to
Yeah.
him. He's like, well, because Jamie Lee Curtis is interested in coming back for a 20-year. So we're going to have you. And I was like, oh my God, that's the greatest news ever.
Well,
And then,
see,
of course,
that's good and all, but I don't know. I just feel like and I don't mean any offense, but I feel like when somebody says I want to come back, it's
Yeah.
like now you're taking it and putting all the focus on them. And while I do admire her and I love her, and I just think that it should have focused more on the killer. You know what I mean? And I would
Oh,
have
interesting.
loved to have
Yes.
seen what you would have done.
Yeah. Well, did you have you read Two Faces of Evil?
No, I mean I've heard of it, but I've not read it. No.
I'll send it to you if you're interested.
Okay, no, I am because I would love to see what you would have done with it.
That's what I would have done.
As
That
long as you're not going to tell me that it wasn't really Michael and that it was the mailman, and it's
no,
I
it's not that. Now,
okay.
listen, I know that they did the copycat killer, right? They did that whole thing. Was that Halloween Kills,
Uh,
where he's like riding on the motorcycle with the guy?
I
It got
think
a
it was
little.
I think it was ends. Halloween ends.
Oh, was that ends? I don't
Yeah,
know, but
yeah.
no, it's not that. But you'll see.
Okay,
It does focus more on the killer. There's a copycat guy. It's a little out there.
okay.
I'm not saying it's perfect.
I'm probably, you
Uh,
know what I'm gonna do? I'm probably gonna read it and then I'm probably gonna discuss it on my channel, or I could read it and then I could bring you back to discuss. It's up to you.
yeah, I'd have to
Because
reread it at this point. We're talking 30 years there now.
I listen, I would love to bring you back to discuss that. It's completely up to you. Um,
Yeah, well, I will definitely send it. It's funny because I did another podcast and they did a whole thing like you're saying. They read it and then they did their whole separate kind of dissection of it where they felt
yeah,
comfortable saying what works and doesn't because I'm not sitting there.
yeah. Uh,
Um,
well, I believe in being polite but being honest. I'm not
there you
gonna,
go.
I'm not gonna just be rude, but I'm not going to uh suck up to the person either and say, "Oh, this is the
Right.
greatest thing ever,"
Yeah, no.
Um, but I guess I would ask next, August 5th of 2028. That sounds funny, but it will mark the 30th anniversary of Halloween H2O. So, with
Lord.
that in mind, looking back at the film, my question is, as a writer, is there anything you would have done differently? If so, what? When you look back at it, do you do
That's a
you say do you say, "Hey, I would have done this," or "I would have done that," or how do you feel
that's a great question.
about it?
That's a great question. That's a tough one because when you're looking back 30 years, so much has changed, right? Just even the way we make films, what's considered campy, what's not, what I mean? I can tell you at the time, I thought it was really solid.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I didn't like about it. This is not in my control. I never liked the mask.
Well, I mean, well, wait a minute. There were different masks in the movies,
There
right?
were.
Okay.
Now, the first
Okay.
one they used was horrendous, but even the one they landed on for the close shots when they did the reshoots, I just
Yeah.
wasn't a fan. To me, there's no. I don't know why the original mask in Halloween 1977 or whatever 78. Why do you deviate from that at all unless it's a rights thing? I don't
I
know,
think
but
I think it was. I
it
think it
was.
was the right thing.
You
Yeah.
just can't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one thing that never it didn't quite that like it was too much like it wasn't as scary. I think they've gotten the mask right in later ones,
Yeah.
right? I think the newer ones it's great. Uh, but from a writing perspective, hmm,
What would
there
you have done differently?
I don't know that there's a lot I would have done differently. I'd have to give that some thought, Darnell. Looking back in hindsight, like at the time it worked, but yeah, if you were to do that now, there's so many things you would do differently. I think some of it was
Yeah.
felt a little like Dawson's Creek, like a little that kind of 90s
Yeah.
dialogue that, that I don't think works today the way it did then. I think it'd be a little more gritty, certainly.
Yeah.
It was I believe it was PG-13. I would have preferred maybe an R, not just because of I'm not a gruesome guy. Like I don't like the ones where it gets a little crazy, with like
Yeah.
the watermelon head squishing and stuff that they did.
Well, I've always said that Michael Myers is not Jason, and I think Mustafa
Hmm.
Akkad even wanted to make that clear that he is not Jason Voorhees' Jason is violent.
Yes.
Michael Myers is the type of person that will smile in your face, so to speak,
Yes.
and then stab you in the back, or he might even stab you in the front.
That's
Um,
what makes him terrifying.
yeah. So I prefer Michael's style over Jason. I don't like all that gritty violence, and I just want Michael to come in for the clean kill, and then that's it. So
I agree. I'm with you there.
earlier in the conversation, we discussed Halloween H2O. Obviously, we're discussing it now and your experiences with the franchise. With that being said, were you ever approached to write Halloween 8, which ultimately became known as Halloween Resurrection?
I was invited to pitch my take on Halloween 8, which I did.
Okay. And what
Uh,
was it?
uh, it was, give me a second here. Again, many years. The gist of it was they realized obviously that Michael was not, his head was not chopped off as
Okay.
Kevin Williamson pitched, and that's what got
Yeah.
Mustafa to agree
Mm-hmm.
to that ending.
Yeah.
He's captured
Yeah.
and he's now awaiting trial in Haddonfield.
Wow. Okay.
And what they do is they gather all the witnesses who are still alive, including Lori, all the
Mm-hmm.
past would-be almost victims gather in Haddonfield for this
Yeah.
trial.
Hmm.
Of course, guess who escapes?
Michael.
Michael, and he goes to the evidence room, and he's all in shadow. We don't see his face, but he goes to the
Yeah.
evidence room after killing the sheriffs,
Yeah.
and you see him open the evidence bag, the knife, the mask goes on, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's like fish in a barrel. He's got all these
Yeah.
witnesses in one place, and he kind of picks them off one by one. It was something in that magnitude of
That sounds great.
story.
And we know that there's not going to be a Halloween 9. We know that's not going to happen, or at least not right now. But I guess I'll end it on this note. If it were greenlit tomorrow, let's say you woke up tomorrow and you received a notification on your phone and they said, "Mr. Zappia, we would like you to come back to do 9." Would you do it?
In a heartbeat.
And what would the story be? I hate to ask you that.
Not as quick as a heartbeat. That I would have to give
Okay.
some thought to. I'd have to give some thought
Yeah.
to it because it's interesting, Darnell, in that now that they've kind of splintered off.
Yeah.
So there's the three. I mean, you have the Rob Zombies, which are their own thing. You have the originals up until 8. That's its own thing. You've got the Halloween Ends Kills
Yeah. Yeah.
Begins, which is
Yeah.
its own thing. So I'd have to give that some thought. If we're talking, I mean, if you're
Would
talking
you it would be a sequel to the first 8 films.
to the 8, I'd have to give
Yeah.
that some thought. But
Yeah.
I feel like I am confident you could do a version that resuscitates it in that timeline, much
Mhm.
the way H2O did, I think, for many people. Now, obviously, you couldn't bring back Jamie Lee because
Yeah,
he was
she's
murdered in
dead.
8.
Yeah.
But, I believe there's a way you could do it.
Well,
I haven't
I
thought about it, though.
I would say to you, sir, that I really enjoyed our conversation. I want to thank you so much. You've
Yeah,
been
happy
such
to
a
do it.
wonderful guest, and I really do want to have you back to discuss Two Faces of Evil. I'm
Well, there
not
you go.
kidding. I'm not kidding. I want to have you back for this. Um,
You'll
I
read
can't
it,
wait.
and I'll
So,
reread it.
yeah, I'll read it. You'll reread it, and then I will email you, and we'll set something up. Hopefully, by then, I will find a record button.
You and me both.
So,
It sounds good.
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the story of Halloween H2O with the writer himself, Mr. Robert Zappia. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being
You're
here.
very welcome. And by the way, can I just add a footnote? We
Yes,
have
go
a
ahead.
few minutes. Very kind of you. Yes, one of the writers of H2O, Matt Greenberg,
Okay.
very talented writer,
Okay.
and Kevin Williamson had his hand all over it. So I haven't talked to Matt in years, but Matt came up with one of my favorite scenes in H2O.
And which one was it?
That was the rest room scene,
Okay.
the rest stop, where the little
Really?
girl's going to the bathroom, and
Yeah.
he comes it because it was so tension filled, and looking at him through that crack, and
Yeah.
you see him, getting her keys. You're just like, what is happening? What is going to happen? It's like you're so vulnerable in a restroom, first of all, and everyone's looked through that little crack in the stall. And then if you were to see Michael Myers in there, forget it. You would literally be
Yeah.
you'd be
Well,
in the right place. You'd be on the toilet.
Mr. Zappia, thank you again.
You're very welcome.
I
It's a
absolutely love
pleasure.
this conversation. I'm gonna go and read the script, and then I'll have you back, and we can discuss it. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.